What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Holistic Nootropics podcast, where we discuss using nootropics, biohacking, and nutrition to help you boost your cognition. My name is Eric, and if you are new to the podcast, then please remember to take a moment and subscribe. And if you enjoy what you're listening to or watching, leave a comment or a review in the respective area that you are consuming the content. Now, on this series, this is the Nootropics Rabbit Hole. So what we do is we take deep dives into the depths of different nootropics and supplements and biohacking things that are popular, that people are doing, that people want to know more about, because we do get a lot of questions on our website through our different emails asking about, hey, what do you think about this nootropic or that nootropic or this biohacking thing or that biohacking thing or this supplement or that diet or whatever. There's so much to cover. So for a long time, we were doing podcast interviews. So we have about 100 different interviews on our channel. You can scroll through those with all kinds of cool topics that we talk about. But here we're talking specifically about nootropics. And today we're going to discuss probably the OG nootropic, not the first nootropic discovered, because that was piracetam and that was synthesized in a lab. But this is a nootropic that really dominates the nootropic scene, which really, if you're using nootropics, there's no reason to not use this specific nootropic, and that is Alpha GPC. So we're going to talk about Alpha GPC's benefits. We'll talk about the overview of what it is. We'll talk about my personal experience using it, the best way to use it, any side effects to watch out for, and everything is time-stamped in the podcast. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just hop around to wherever you want. I don't know if we can do that in the podcast platforms, but if you can, you'll see those podcasts just below in the podcast description. So let's jump into Alpha GPC. So what is Alpha GPC? It's a choline. It's a choline precursor. So why is that important? Well, choline is actually a precursor itself to acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. It's the predominant neurotransmitter of your parasympathetic nervous system. And in the brain, acetylcholine has many different functions, many of which are still being elucidated by the research today. But some things we know that it does, it works in the hippocampus directly. It's good for memory. It's good for overall cognition. It's good for processing speed. It's good for neuroprotection. So it does a lot of things in the brain. As I was saying, it's the primary neurotransmitter of the parasympathetic nervous system. So even though in the nootropic space, it gets a lot of attention for its brain benefits, it actually works all throughout the body. So it's going to help with muscle contraction. It's used for, it can be used for increased force production. It stimulates the muscles to contract. So, it actually can help with the, help move action potentials within the neuron itself. So it is not just it's not just a nootropic for your brain's sake. When you take a choline source, whether it's alpha GPC or CDP choline or even a phosphatidylcholine or a choline bitartrate, just know what you're doing is you're boosting overall acetylcholine status in the body, which is going to affect your entire nervous system. So who should use an alpha GPC? In my opinion, everybody. But I understand that's a little, that's a little too much. So really, if you're somebody who considers himself a high performer, if you're a student, this is especially important for elderly people. I actually think that this is a great nootropic to take if you're in your 30s, because this is the time, because Alpha GPC's one of its main benefits is neuroprotection. So neuroprotection from specifically Alzheimer's and dementia. And even though, we know that Alzheimer's, dementia, that's a brain aging disease, you don't really see it. Like, you don't really see Alzheimer's until someone's in their 70s, 80s, in a lot of cases nowadays, maybe even 60s. But you talk to a lot of experts in the Alzheimer's field, and they'll tell you these signs start popping up in your 30s in a lot of people, nowadays, especially because Alzheimer's is not just a degenerative brain disease because of amyloid plaques and tau proteins, even though those things do play a role. Alzheimer's is coming about because of blood sugar dysregulation, blood sugar metabolism dysregulation, to the point where we're starting to call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because of its relationship to dysregulated blood sugar. And some of these effects of dementia start to show themselves. They start to, kind of peek through the cracks a little bit. In a lot of people nowadays in their 30s, some people in their late 20s, you see a lot of people having these brain deficits, having memory lapses, very young, even mid 20s. There's a lot of people in the nootropic space, a lot of people who are buying nootropics, experimenting with nootropics, who are, talking on different message boards. Again, this isn't like peer-reviewed clinical study. These are just anecdotes, but people are, you gotta respect when people tell you like, hey, I'm 29 and I feel like my memory's going. I mean, how many college kids are already having a difficult time, staying focused or being able to remember different, different things they need to know for tests and for presentations. I mean, a lot of it probably comes from the fact that a child's diet is so filled with sugar and processed industrial seed oils and, all kinds of foods and toxicities that they're exposed to from an early age. I mean, even the babies, we're dumping so much plastic into babies these days through baby products, through baby toys, different food colorings. I mean, there's just an endless list of issues that go into the human diet at a young age. So you're starting to see signs of dementia popping up very early. So that's why you see a lot of younger people using nootropics. I mean, a lot of younger people are using things like Adderall because they need that boost in brain power. You're seeing kids using a lot of caffeine because they need that boost in brain power. Plus, let's also say the lack of sleep. When you sleep, that is your brain's, that's a time for your brain to really detoxify itself. And then you have a lot of kids not sleeping well these days. So I'm going a little bit too far into that stuff. I didn't want to go in that direction too far, but you get what I'm saying. If you're in your 30s, Alpha GPC is probably a great nootropic to take that you probably will start experiencing benefits from pretty quickly. So again, this is the Alpha GPC's big brain benefit is its neural protection, but it also has these other things. It's going to improve your memory. It's going to, improve overall cognitive performance. It also restores hippocampal neurogenesis. So this is a big thing for people who are coming off of substance abuse. So if you are in recovery, if you're getting over addiction, you were on, whatever drug or whatever substance for a long time, and you're starting to realize like, hey, my brain's not working as well as it used to. And that's because those substances do take a toll, specifically in the hippocampal region of your brain. Alpha GPC can restore hippocampal neurogenesis, and it also helps build BDNF, and BDNF is brain-derived neural growth factor, which is essentially this growth factor in your brain, which helps build new neural connections. So if you're someone, again, who is trying to rehab their brain from substance abuse, you want that factor that's going to actually help grow new neurons and synaptic connections. So Alpha GPC, great for that. Now, you're going to come across several different kinds of choline. Like I said, CDP choline, phosphatidylcholine, choline bitartrate. Why is Alpha GPC, in my opinion, the better of all of those? Because it actually molecularly contains the most weight of actual choline in the molecule, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So, we're talking about what's a great choline for liver health. Well, that's going to probably be phosphatidylcholine. You don't need an Alpha GPC for that. But if you want a choline that's going to guarantee get into your brain, Alpha GPC does that better than all the other cholines. It specifically plays a vital role in numerous physiological processes, including signal transduction, DNA and histone methylation, along with nerve myelination. So again, it's working right there in your nervous system. It's a precursor to the different metabolites, including acetylcholine, membrane phospholipids, and sphingomyelin, and the methyl donor betaine. So I know in a previous podcast I was talking about 9-MEBC, and we were talking about how that can go wrong with methylation because it turns into a toxic byproduct, which I believe was 2,9-methyl beta-carboline. So if you're going to use 9-MEBC, you actually don't want to use any choline precursor, especially alpha GPC, because it is the most potent one of those. And so what does alpha GPC do in the brain specifically? It's going to synthesize and encourage the release of acetylcholine, and it's going to boost, again, in the hippocampal regions, memory, motivation, arousal, and attention. You're going to get a lot of benefit from that. Now, we're talking about, is there proof? Are there clinical trials out there? How do we know it does all this? Well, in preclinical trials, that's in vitro studies, that's animal studies, you've seen alpha GPC be able to protect the brain from signs of aging and toxicity. Again, primarily in the hippocampus. I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but it's so important to emphasize that's where it's really taking action. And if you want your brain to work better, if you want better memory, if you want the neuroprotection, if you want learning benefits, if you want processing speed, if you want that cognitive enhancement that you use nootropics for in the first place, you need something to actually happen in the hippocampus. And we see it in preclinical trials. We see it in human randomized controlled trials. Alpha GPC does that. Also, the neuroprotection and anti-inflammatory, and it protects against oxidative stress and boosts mitochondrial function. And oddly enough, it also can boost aspects of physical performance. So we see it able to best modulate growth hormones. So in trials, they have seen that people have been able to boost their growth hormone status in this. Also, athletic performance overall. We've seen studies in humans, randomized controlled trials, where one specific was a study published in the journal Mechanisms of Aging and Development. Alpha GPC was shown to enhance power output and improve overall athletic performance, prevent exercise, induce depletion of choline levels, increase endurance, promote muscular function, and replenish energy levels. Another study looked at 48 college males and found an increased athletic performance at 600 milligrams. Now, here's an interesting point of that study. They also found that acetylcholine decreased TSH levels, and that's good for two reasons. Number one, that represents an increase in dopamine production because decreased TSH levels are associated with increased dopamine. Number two, that might also indicate an improvement in thyroid function. Okay, so a lot of people, and I'll say, flat out, I am not a thyroid expert, but from what I understand, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, you don't want more of that. More thyroid stimulating hormone could actually indicate a more dysfunctional hypothyroid. Your thyroid's not working optimally, because if you think about it, the more TSH you need, the more TSH that is coming from your pituitary down to your thyroid, the more that you're saying, I need more thyroid stimulating hormone to get my thyroid working correctly, versus if you need less, then your thyroid might be working with less hormone, which means it's working more optimally. So it's kind of the same thing with like insulin resistance, where more insulin actually indicates more blood sugar dysregulation, because you need more insulin to be present in the bloodstream because a little bit of insulin is not working correctly. I hope that makes sense. So now in human trials also, when it comes to brain protection, in a multi-center, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial, patients affected by mild to moderate dementia of the Alzheimer's type were treated with alpha GPC 400 milligrams versus placebo 3 times daily for 180 days. They found that the alpha GPC group in this trial actually improved significantly better versus baseline, whereas the placebo group did not did not improve as much, or actually did not improve at all, or they worsened. And then there was another trial, very similar setup, 30 patients with similar cognitive impairment, aged 56 to 82 years old, received course therapy with alpha GPC in capsules of 400 milligrams 300 times a day, 3 times a day. That's 1,200 milligrams total for 3 months. And they found similar results where the experimental group actually performed better than the placebo group. Now, some things to look out for with alpha GPC. So even though, I do believe in, getting more choline, whether it's through your diet, whether it's through supplementing with, with a choline supplement like alpha GPC. There can be a downside to it, which is the production of trimethylamine oxide, TMAO. Kind of cut to the chase here. What you see is choline includes a TMA moiety. That's basically part of the molecule of choline that can be oxidized by FMO, hepatic flavin monooxygenases, and that turns it into TMAO, and TMAO has been linked to atherosclerosis. So you hear this a lot in like the low-fat, kind of more vegan circles, beware of TMAO. I don't know. They go back and forth with it between like the keto and carnivore doctors and the vegan people, whatever. It's personally something that I don't want a lot of, but you can actually kind of circumvent the problem because this is a gut bacteria problem. So really, if you're taking a probiotic, if you're eating yogurt, you really want to build up a strong gut microbiome. Again, this is one of the pillars of the holistic nootropics approach to optimal cognitive function, which is great gut health. Excellent gut health, because you even think about it, if you don't have good gut health, you can't even like absorb the nutrients that you're going to be taking from supplements anyway. So along with that, you're actually seeing direct evidence of a problem using choline supplementation if you don't have the right gut bacteria. So it can the TMAO can also, the alpha GPC can specifically disrupt lactobacillus and Akkermansia strains in your gut. So you want to make sure you are supplementing with a good probiotic. I'll actually link a good probiotic in the show notes or in the description below this. Also, there's another study out that I just found all about berberine. So I'm going to be releasing a berberine episode here in a week or two. So look out for that. But berberine also is actually been shown to directly counter TMAO production in the gut. So if you are taking a choline supplement or eating a lot of choline through food, you want to use some berberine because that can actually be very helpful. And I did not mention, but you can get choline through the diet, although not to the extent that you're going to get from alpha GPC, because that choline also is not so bioavailable for the brain, but you are going to get the benefits. So your highest bang for your buck for choline in food is going to be, really beef liver specifically is really strong. Cod liver, Atlantic cod is really good. And then also some plant, I believe wheat germ is also a really good source. But then egg yolks are a great source as well. But again, supplementing with a choline, it's for people who don't really want to eat it. I get it. Not everybody wants to eat beef liver, even though that's like the thing to do these days. And there's a lot of benefits to that, but I get if you don't want to do it. So that's why alpha GPC is a great option. Dosing wise, you really want to stay between 400 and 1,200 milligrams to be safe. There's not really a reasonable lethal dose, so there's not really any known side effects to supplementing with alpha GPC. So you can be safe using a fairly high dose. In fact, that's what those studies we're seeing is that in those trials where they gave elderly patients 3 doses of 400 milligrams of alpha GPC, they actually found the benefit. So you can go kind of high in this one. And stacking, you can stack this with, again, really almost all nootropics. Just, again, you want to be careful of like, if you're taking a hardcore like 9 MEBC, you want to avoid the methylation that comes with choline. But phosphatidylserine, racetams, uridine, adaptogene, adaptogens, amino acids. It's all fair game really when it comes to Alpha GPC. So I hope you guys learned something about Alpha GPC. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, be sure to share it with your friends. Be sure to share it in all your chat groups, your WhatsApp groups, your Discords. And if you haven't yet done so, remember to subscribe. And if you're new to Holistic Nootropics, be sure to head on over to holisticnootropics.com, download a copy of our free supplement buying guide. Otherwise, I will catch y'all on the next podcast. Take care. Peace.